We got this new ruling that has come down.
Welcome to the Icon Coaching Mastermind session with Sean Kokoska and Coach Rob Daniel.
Brandy, I think maybe I told you that this would be for you whenever you make a decision to start doing listings. And
Right.
Pamela, I know you do listings. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great mastermind. And maybe it's just us, which it is. Maybe there'll be some other ones that come in, but I've got some pretty good things right here that I think is going to help us. And then we'll be able to send it out to whoever we need to send it to. And I think it will help a lot of people. You know, we got this new ruling that has come down and everybody is just all up in arms over it. And anytime that you have any kind of a shift or a major change or something, everybody starts, talking about it. Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with real estate? What's going to happen with this? I've been 35 years in this business and I have seen so many different things happening to our business that things like this just don't even faze me. Go list a whole bunch of houses. Okay. Right now, we don't all know exactly all the things that are going to be happening. But again, the bottom line is that first of all, it's not going to take effect till July, right? And it is going to be this. I'd like to tell everybody, stop it. We'll figure it out as we go along, but stop whining about it. And so anyway, that's my thought, and I'm sticking to it. You have any thought on it, Pam, or Brandy, or wherever Brandy went, there's Brandy or that kind of thing? Do you have any thoughts? I'll give you your minute to give me your either whining or your thoughts or whatever it is that you want. Pam, what do you got?
Yeah. Hey, opportunity. We got opportunity. Those people that are in the market, been through these different things, we're warriors, right? We have that armor. We're ready to tackle what's coming our way. And when I say that, it's educating the public, right? They get all this bad information. I'm just chomping at the bit here, waiting to be able to put out some video and talk to people, have them connect with me. What a great opportunity for us to say, hey, are you confused about this? Let me tell you, you're in a great position. Doesn't matter if you're a buyer or a seller, right? Best time ever. We can't control the interest rates. We can't control these other things, but guess what? We can control the negotiations we do for you. So you're in the driver's seat, right? I mean,
well, right, Pam. Well, right. In our AB classes that we had, we could control how many people we talk to a day. We can control whether we pick up our phones and make phone calls or go out and door knock or go talk to people. We get to control that. And we can't control what's going to happen with this lawsuit and the buyer agency agreement, and the seller not doing this, la. I mean, you want to list a whole bunch of houses. It's not going to affect that. I mean, it's really just the buyer side to some degree. I tell you what, am I freezing a little bit?
No, you're fine. You're okay.
You guys are freezing a little bit, or you're freezing on me, Pam. You're the only one I can see. Brandy, what did you say?
I'm driving in between some foothills, so yeah, it was freezing and cutting out.
Yeah. Again, if I freeze, let me know, because it could be my internet. I don't know. I'll switch over to my hotspot. Well, good to see you, Shannon. I think what I'd like to do, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to be talking about a pre-listing packet. Okay. So many people have always, what do you put in a pre-listing packet? And I got to tell you, I think I did real well whenever I sold an incredible pre-listing packet. You know who I learned it from? I don't know if she's still around. I think I heard she was still around. Is a lady by the name, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. So her name is Barb Schwartz. I don't know if you ever heard of her, Barb Schwartz, but I learned a pre-listing packet back then with her. Again, I don't know if she's alive or still around. Hey, Day, look her up. Barb Schwartz. I don't know how to spell the last name, so good luck on that. And let me know if you see her in there. She would be in real estate, of course, some kind of a speaker, some kind of a thing there. So, but I remember learning this from her, and it really, really did me well. Having a pre-listing packet that I was able to take out and give to people, did me really well. And I don't know if you have a dynamic pre-listing packet, and dadgummit, Pam, you just keep on freezing on me. I'm going to do, listen, I'm going to do
Do you want
something.
me to sign
Just
out?
stay
and
right
back
here.
in? Okay.
No, it's probably me.
Hi,
It's
Rob.
probably me. I want to see if it's me. So I'm going to go to my hotspot and see if it's my internet. So hang on one moment. All right. So let's see if that works. If you freeze now, then it's got to be you, because I'm on my hotspot now. So we'll see what happens. So I don't know if you have a dynamic, but what I wanted us to do on this recording for the next 30 minutes is I want us to get an ingredients to a pre-listing packet. What are some of the things? Doesn't mean we're going to put them in there, things that we think of. It doesn't mean that we'll put all of it in there. And it may even trigger something for you to be able to send out. I'm going to get you to really think about something on even anything you send out. There are some things I think you should, and I'm going to give you some things that I think you got to be careful with. Okay? Be careful with. And so why don't we go ahead and begin? And I've got mine listed right here. And one of the things that I would say is one of the things that you ought to have inside of this pre-listing packet is a resume. Okay, is a resume. Now, let me tell you why I think resumes. Okay. Now, again, a lot of people will say, well, give your resume of just real estate. I don't know that you should do that. It all depends on what you have done. Now, if you've been a cashier at McDonald's, maybe not. Okay. However, let's just, I want you to think about what I'm saying with your resume. Let's just say you've been a nurse, right? A lot of nurses get in our business. Now, if you put in there on your pre-listing packet and you send it out to a seller, and the husband or the wife was a nurse or is a nurse, would that resonate with them? All of a sudden you've got a match, you've got some kind of a connection. And I can tell you, every connection brings you closer to a listing. Every connection brings you close. For example, let's go to Shannon, psychologist. Yeah. See, I think that is something you might sit back and you might say, well, hey, that's not real estate or anything. I don't think it matters. I think that psychologists, look, in the whole scheme of things, there's not a ton of psychologists. Okay. I know there's a lot of psychologists, but in the whole scheme of everything, there's not a ton of psychologists. Okay. So if you put that in there and you're going and you send it out, and they know a psychologist, their parents are psychologists, or they are psychologists, or they're studying, I'm telling you, you're done. You got the listing. Just those little things can make a difference in whether you get the listing or don't get the listing. And I'm saying that with any advertisement almost that you do. Sometimes you could put in a little print down there, hey, here's a small resume of mine. I was this or I was that. What's something else? Let's stick with the resume. What are some other things that, well, I'll give you a couple of more, and then you can, boy, if you were in the military, dang, man. I mean, put your branch in there, right? Put your branch in there. Now, I'm going to say this, nothing against any branch, but there are a couple of branches that stand out more than others. For example, what is one branch that I can tell you, if you put in there and you were part of that branch, you pretty much got the listing. So what branch of the military am I thinking about? Come on, there's only 4 or 5 branches here. What branch am I thinking about? Come on, ladies. Tell me, what branch am I thinking about that I'm telling you, you put that in there and you were part of that, you pretty much got the listing. Really? You don't know the branches of, just guess.
Army.
No. Army's
Marines.
got a lot of people.
Then Marines.
Marines. You put that you were a Marine, or what's this? You put in there you're a Marine wife, or even a military wife. That resonates, guys. That really, really does resonate with people. And so you've got to look. I can tell you right now, you know, and I may have said this to you before. I had a guy in my office in Chesapeake, Virginia, and he was a retired Navy chief. Now, if you know anything about the Navy chief is as high. They're not officers, but they're as high ranked as like a colonel or something on that line. A Navy chief is. That was a Navy town, Norfolk, Virginia. And you put Navy chief in there, and he put it on his advertisement. Any Navy chief that was thinking about listing or buying a house went with Tony. That was his name, is Tony. They are loyal to whatever. So I would put that in there. What are some other things you could put on your resume or come from a resume? What would that look like? What do you think? Come on, use your noggin. All right, I'll wait for you. You got to be thinking of something.
Right.
Community involvement.
Say again.
Community involvement.
Yeah, absolutely, Brandy. I think, any kind of community involvement, food bank, for example, or what? Give me another involvement.
Networking groups.
Yeah. Or maybe, and write this down, maybe a charity group that you give to, right? You could put that in your resume a little bit. I know that I ran the Boston Marathon for St. Jude. Okay. Now, ton of people give to St. Jude. That would be a big deal. Oh, and that would just be a big deal. What are you going to say, Pam? I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah, boards you serve on.
Say that again.
Boards, if you're on a board of directors, either for banks or like
right.
I'm on a board of director for a school and a home for men. So
yeah. I mean, again, anything on that line. Again, one of the things that I would put in my resume or somewhere in my pre-listing packet, I just said it just a minute ago. I mean, I used to have 100 people in a class or something on that line. Even I've had 100 people on Zoom. And I would ask, how many of you have ever run the Boston Marathon? And nobody. Very rare do you find somebody that ran the Boston Marathon. That is the most sought after medal in all marathons. And I got one. I ran the Boston Marathon in 2017. So see, I would put that in my resume. I would put that somewhere in my pre-listing packet, because if that seller or buyer ran the Boston Marathon, I would put it on advertisement that I sent out. I would say, hey, that's what I would do. I'd put a picture of the Boston Marathon medal and just kind of point at and say, you got one of these? Call me if you're thinking about buying or selling a house. I guarantee you that anybody that ran the Boston Marathon, I'm going to get their listing or sale. So You know, anything that you guys done something like that. I'm not talking about a marathon or anything. Any of you guys. I mean, Brandy, I know that you've done a lot of things before you got into real estate that you could put in your resume or in your pre-listing packet. What are some of those things?
I've done an Ironman triathlon. I'm about to have 2 black belts in 2 different martial arts, and worked in sports medicine for 24 years.
Iron Man. Dang. Let me tell you something. Anybody that's ever done an Ironman, do you understand how tough that is? I've done an Olympic triathlon, and that was tough. Had to swim a half mile, bike 24 miles, and run, I think it was 10 miler. But an Ironman, you have to swim 2.5 miles. You have to ride 112 miles, and you have to run a full marathon at 26. If somebody else has done that and Brandy has done that, she's getting a listing. They just match together. This is not only for a pre-listing packet. I think it's for advertisement. Would you agree with that? I mean, if she showed herself with black belt, don't you think that'll resonate with all the black belts out there? People that have got a black belt or won a black belt or something on that line. Give me some other things that you've done that we could advertise or we could put in a pre-listing packet.
I think it resonates also more with not just people who've done it, but people who recognize how much work it takes. And that shows like your tenacity, your grit. It shows your commitment to following through on something, right? It can translate into advertising your qualities in addition to just aligning with someone who's done or values the same thing,
That's right. That's exactly
That's
right.
what I was thinking of. That's what I was thinking of in terms of the fortitude and the craziness and going from start to finish.
Yep.
Okay. Before I get into some real estate things, let me tell you what else I can remember putting into my pre-listing packet. Let's go animals. I would ask in bold, how many has ever owned an old English bulldog? And all out of 100, maybe 2. I got their listing because I would have a picture of my old English bulldog in there. And if they had an old English bulldog, I win. We don't think sometimes. See, we think that it's because we're the greatest realtor in the world. Sometimes it's just the connection. Would you agree with that? Sometimes it's just a connection. As long as you're not a terrible realtor, it's the connection that you can come up with. Okay? And so what other animal would you say would have a connection?
I was going to say the only, like I do a lot of videos and I get average viewing, not much, but my only video that went viral was me with my Irish Wolfhound.
Irish Wolfhound. Ain't nobody got an Irish Wolfhound.
Right.
But if they do, Shannon's got the listing. Boom. I mean, if she was to send that pre-listing packet out or put it out in a neighborhood with her and her Irish Wolfhound, if somebody even knew about an Irish Wolfhound, they would call her. Because you gotta realize, again, if we could all just understand that a pre-listing packet is really a connection. We put so much real estate stuff sometime in a pre-listing packet thinking that that's what they really want to see. And they do, don't get me wrong. But they also want to see the human side of you. They want to see the emotional side of you. And if they can relate to that emotional side or that human side, then you're in great shape. Let me give you some other thoughts. This is what you got to be careful with. Okay, not all that I have said, you're good. What you got to be careful with is a couple of things, okay? Where do you live, Pam? In the state.
Illinois.
Illinois. Maybe, maybe not. Where do you live, Shannon?
Orange County, California.
Dang it. You guys are not, and I know Brandy lives in California. Okay. So let me give you a better one, one that I know. And it might be around your area, but let me tell you what I know. If you lived in Alabama, somebody that lives in Alabama, okay, they have to be very, very careful what sport team they put in there, what college sport team they advertise. For example, if they were Roll Tide, Alabama, I can promise you they'll never get an Auburn fan. If they everything they had on there was Alabama, 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 not an Auburn fan would ever go list their house with them, even if they're the best agent in the world. Same thing here in Virginia. If you're a Virginia fan, you cannot be a Virginia Tech fan. If you're a Virginia Tech fan, you cannot be a Virginia fan. And they're not going to list their house with each other. It's an amazing thing, this sports thing, how powerful it is in the United, or probably in the world, how powerful it is. Same thing with professional teams sometimes. Again, if there's that big rivalry against somebody, you take, for example, the Washington Commanders, I think they're called now, and the Dallas Cowboys. They just always have had a rivalry that, bars none. I mean, it's just, and I'm not going to ever do anything with them. I mean, so you've got to be careful sometime with sport. And because again, it can really hurt you. Now, you take like this, LU, now Liberty University. I could do that anywhere because they're not up against Virginia or Virginia Tech. They're right here in Lynchburg, Virginia. But it's the university, that's the university town is Lynchburg. So but again, there are some people probably don't like Liberty, but most people do. So I think you got to be careful on sometimes what you put in there that could actually hurt you. Michigan and Ohio State. That's one of the biggest rivalries. They hate each other and they don't even, I mean, if a Michigan person saw a Ohio State wearing an Ohio State shirt, they don't even know them, but they hate them. Same thing with Virginia Tech. If they're wearing a Virginia shirt and a Virginia Tech person sees them, they'll walk the other way. It's amazing what people do. And they don't even know the person, but they are so torn and fanatical about their team. So again, before we get to real estate, is there any other thing that you could think of that could be the connection or not be a connection?
What about, and this is probably regional, you should avoid religion, correct?
Well, that great. Yeah. Something, I think that politics and religion, right? I mean, if you're sitting there putting a whole bunch of stuff out there, I mean, here's what I always have said, Brandy. If you want everybody, right, then you got to be conscious of what kind of advertisement and what kind of pre-listing package you put out there. If you say that I am Jehovah Witness, JW Jehovah Witness, okay, you're going to alienate a whole lot of people that don't care for the Jehovah Witness. Or you could say Baptist, or you could say Catholic, or you could say anybody. You're going to alienate. You just have to realize, and by the way, a lot of people do put their self out there, right? I mean, again, they could probably look at me and say, okay, Liberty University, and they'll go look it up and see that it's a independent Baptist university. So they could easily not list with me because I go, or that I am part or graduated from Liberty University because of the religious background of it, right? And so I think there is something to that. Now, there are just some people don't care. Man, I'm going to say what I am, and okay. you just have to realize, and this is what I always said to everybody, you have to realize, okay, that's fine, but you're not going to get every listing then. Well, I want every list. No, you're not going to get every listing because some people are not going to like what you're saying. If you say I'm a Democrat, if you say I'm a Republican, those type of things, if you say those type of things, okay, that's fine. Go for it. But you got to understand you're going to alienate some. Does that make sense? Am I correct on what I'm saying? Do you all agree? Yes. Shake your
Oh,
head.
I agree. That's why I said keeping it out is probably better, especially in certain areas.
Well, woo, yeah. Yeah.
I say that because, for example, it's like I'm in Central California. Central California with Fresno, you got a lot of farm, you have a lot of this. It's more right than left, shall we say? So you got to be careful with what you say or how you say it sometimes. It's still the minority, but it still leans more one way than the other. So you just
Okay. It's okay to be okay with it, right? It's okay to be okay. So let's talk a little bit of real estate. So that's your resume, that's your kind of thing. Put this down, if you will, not just a resume, but I got one down here that says your value proposition. Your value proposition, which speaks to satisfying like the seller's needs. In other words, first of all, you got to know what their needs are, but reinforce that your service is focused on them. You might want to write that down. Reinforce in your value proposition that it focuses on them. A lot of people have a hard time with the value proposition. They don't know what that is. Do y'all know what yours is? I mean, that's a question, and I would like for you to answer it. What is your value? I'm a seller. What's your value proposition, Pam?
Yeah, my value proposition to you is to sell your home for the greatest amount of money in the least amount of time.
Okay, but Shannon told me that whenever she was here.
She told you the same thing.
To sell it for the most money in the least amount of time.
Right. Okay. And we do that through extensive marketing and the use of artificial intelligence to get you the most views.
Well, now you're starting to speak it. I mean, because again, I think you made a statement. I think it's kind of, everybody could say that. You got to get it to where, and I'm going to bring a funnel down. You can make a statement that everybody says or could say. Let me say it a better word, could say. But I think you've got to narrow it down to what do you do? What is your value proposition personally that's going to help me as a seller? Let's just say seller right now, because that's what mostly the pre-listing packet's for. What's going to help me? What do you think, Shannon? What is yours?
So I don't have it finalized like in a great elevator pitch, which I need to do, but basically I emphasize that because of my background in prioritizing education and having multiple doctorates and being a professor, I have aligned myself in the industry with the best educators and support ideas so that my marketing plan and sales strategy, I don't know, has something around that. Like I said,
and I hear you loud and clear. Let me tell you what mine was back then, and it was so simple, okay? And it resonated with them. You know, Mr. and Ms. Seller, let me just tell you this. Let me give you my value proposition. And I want you to listen to anybody else that you want to, any other realtors out here that you want to, and see if they can even match my value proposition. Now, guys, you can't match it, okay? Just know that. You could, but you're not going to. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I lead generate from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock every single day, Monday through Friday, looking for buyers for my sellers' houses. I don't answer my phone. I don't let anybody interrupt me. And here's what I will give to you. You call me between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and if I answer my phone, you fire me on the spot. That's a value proposition, ladies and gentlemen. That's not, see, that's something not many realtors can say or will say. You call me between 10 and 2. I'm looking for buyers for your house. And if I answer, you fire me. See, when you can look at a seller and say that, that's why I listed, 18 houses a month. I average 18 a month because I could say that, and that resonated to them that no other realtors could even touch it. Though they could say they're going to communicate. They could say they're going to do this. They're going to say, I can put a sign out. I'm going to put the most beautiful sign out in the front yard. I'm going to go do this. And I'm going to do, but they could not say, I'm going to lead generate from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Monday through Friday, looking for a buyer for your house. And if you don't believe me, you call me between 10 and 2. And if I answer, you fire me. Now, if you find, and I would even go as far as this, you find another realtor that can say that and promise you that, you hire them. But if not, hire me. And nobody could touch that. You don't have to do 10 to 2, dude. I mean, again, most realtors don't lead generate. But if you did, like even from 10 to 12, you're way above everybody else. Tell the sellers, I'm lead generated from 10 to 12 every single day looking for a buyer for your house. Now, if I'm calling for sale by owners, could I be looking for a buyer for their house? Yes or no? Sure. That for sale owner could buy that house. So again, I'm looking for buyers. And if you don't believe me, you call me between 10 and 12. And if I answer it, you fire me. Just don't answer your phone between 10 and 12. Cut that sucker off because you could get fired. They could be going to a neighbor's house and calling you so you don't see their number. And they're like, I gotcha. So you need a value proposition. I think you need a great resume. Okay. In your pre-listing packet or even your advertisement. What is something else? Do you guys have something? You guys got an idea?
Testimonials, if you have them.
Boom. That's monster. Testimonials. And I don't know, sometimes I'm trying to think about testimonials like we used to have, but we didn't have this. I don't know that I wouldn't have recorded a testimonial and say, let me tell you what one of my clients are saying. Listen to this. And actually taking your phone and saying, hey, here it is. And let them tell them to list with you. Right? A lot of times a third party saying, hey, I listed with Pamela. She sold my house in 9 days. She did an unbelievable job. She did an excellent job. She kept in touch with me. She communicated with me all the way to the closing. If I was going to recommend anybody, I'm telling you now, you ought to list with Pamela. That goes a long ways. Having a third party do that, and especially if you had it on video and you showed it to them right there in your presentation, or send it on a pre-listing packet. Right? Send it to them. Like that, Shannon. Good testimonials are excellent. A list of services that you provide, but you might not want to get into detail. I'll give you a few of them, and you can certainly tell me with some of them. Communication. That's a big deal, by the way. If you go after an expired, their number one reason they feel like that it expired or somebody took it off the market or somebody like that is because number one thing was communication. And so the first question, by the way, I always, when I went in a listing presentation, by the way, just so you know, I had a tablet and everything with me, and I would sit there and say, tell me, and I go to many expireds, and I would look at them and I say, tell me what you're looking for. Now that you've been with an agent, tell me what you're looking for in an agent. Number one thing, what? Communication. Great. I had to write that down, communication. What else you need? What else are you looking for in an agent? Wait, do that. I'm telling you right now, they'll tell you. Well, I want them to do at least an open house a month. Okay. One open house a month. Okay. What else? Well, I want that. Okay, good. What else? Tell me more. Well, I'd like that. Okay. Now you take a look at that. They just told you what they wanted. And so inside of my presentation, I handle every single one of those. And then whenever I finish, I would sit there and say, okay, here are the 5 things that you said that you really want in an agent. You said communication. Did I handle that well in the listing presentation with you? And if you handle them all, you got to look at them and say, hey, I'm giving you everything that you're looking for. So again, I think communication, let me give you another one here. How about staging? If you're a stager, if you have staging, I think I would put that in there in my pre-listing packet. Maybe a couple of marketing pieces that you do, right? Just to show it off. What else in a pre-listing packet that you could send? What else you got?
Professional photos, I always show the difference of professional photos and those that aren't. Also the virtual staging. So a lot of sellers don't want to pay the price to have a home staged, especially if they're moving out. But to show how nice the virtual staging can make the difference in the home. And another thing then is actually printing out big pictures, because when the potential buyers come through and they see, you show the vacant pictures, but when they're, they don't have their computer in front of them, and then they can see the virtually staged room picture set up in the vacant room. And that's been a huge thing. People are wowed by that. And it's just the cost of a poster size picture of furniture in their vacant room that you've already paid as a photographer a service to virtually stage.
That is great.
Just the little wows.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Nice. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just gonna say, so I was thinking this was about a year ago. I was invited to participate in a beta test. And then unfortunately, the people who had the system that they were trying to beta test, like never got it even off the ground enough for beta to start. And I was so disappointed because what they had was this huge automated system. And they had something like, like we all have our checklists and all the things we do, but they had it broken down so finite that they had a list of over 400 itemized and automated tasks to do to represent a seller. I think it was like something like 400 something for sellers and then 300 for buyers or whatever. But it was so specific, but so long. And then it really showed value because everybody else would just talk about like a couple of key things. Now we all know the seller's not going to read that whole list. But so I have been trying to create a similar list. I have not gotten to 400 items, but they had, and so I wished I could have done that beta test to at least get the idea of what these 400 items were. But I think creating something even like that we know they're not going to read, but just the fact that we've provided it gives them a concept of what we actually do.
Right. I love it. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I think in going back, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Do you think having a nice cover letter is critical? Having a cover letter, something like, dear Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you regarding the sale of your home. And then you could say a couple of other things if you want to say a couple of other things. So I think a cover letter is critical for it. Would you give local market stats or tell them you have it available whenever you meet with them? I'll bring local market stats and show you all the things that have sold and for sale around your area. Just let them know that's what you're coming with. Pam?
Yeah, so usually I bring in the required documents for people to sign. So your state disclosures, radon disclosures, those type things. I put those and let them know that if they can fill them out. In my pre-listing package, I drop it off, and if you can fill those out and have them ready when I get there. It's kind of presumptuous that then you're listing with me, but most people don't even show up with them. So they understand that it's part of your system. It's required. We need to have it done. I put a CMA in there and a net sheet because they want to know what's it going to cost. And I put down the fees, which, you know, those are changing now with our new things, but so that'll bring up more conversation, right? But
Right.
at least it's, because really the bottom line is they want to know how much is my home going to sell for and what's it going to cost me to do it? And what are you going to do to get it sold? That's the three things that they really.
And you do that in a pre-listing packet?
Yep, I do.
Dang.
You know,
Okay.
if it's, and most people, you know, I had one gentleman tell me that he was interviewing 4 people. And when I showed up, the stuff was there, and then I went over, you know, went through the CMA, walked through the home and talked to him. He wouldn't sign this stuff while I was there because he had 3 more. And he called me at the end of the week and I asked him how it went. And he said, not one other agent came in with anything. Now I include a book, How to Sell Your Home for Top Dollar. And then I have a listing guide. Plus I have all the information in there. So it tells them how to have their home set up for the showings. And I never take anything back with me. I always leave it, because even if they go for something like a discounted price, if it doesn't sell, they're looking, they hang on to it. It's a value to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes being the first in isn't the best. Sometimes having someone having weathered a little bit of trial, they're way more open to suggestions, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it is sometimes good to be first, and it's sometimes good to be last. You just don't really know, because if you got a really good agent that's a real hard closer and they go in first, they could close them out. And go ahead.
Oh, I've done that, and I've offered to call the other agent.
Right. That's what I used to do. Absolutely.
I said, oh, don't worry, because they're like, well, I don't know, but we have the appointment. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll let them know you're coming on. And, you know, the way we're going to do the open house and the showings, they can bring their buyer for you.
You feisty realtor, you. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd say, hey, listen, why don't I do you a favor? You know, other than having to interview these people, would you list with me? Yes. Well, why don't I do you a favor? Why don't I call them up, tell them I twisted your arm and got you to list with me, but I'll give them first shot to bring their buyer over here. And you know what they would say many times? You do that for me? Sure, no problem. And then go out in the car and call them up. Hey, sucker, you know, and I'm just, no, you don't do that.
They do. They look at each other and they go, well, we don't need to interview. Are you
Have
okay
you ever
with
got a,
it?
have you ever had a realtor though get mad at you because you got the listing and you call them up and tell them, hey, I got the listing? Yeah. Yeah, they get mad at you. I mean, hey, you should have been first. Sorry. I'm just better than you.
Never leave without it signed. That's all I'm going to say.
Never leave without it signed. Oh, man, woman after my own heart there I love that. That's, I mean, if you don't get the signature, 95% of the time, you're not going to get the signature. You know, it's just the way it is. All right. Anything else on this pre-listing? I think we got some pretty good ideas. I hope you got some pretty good ideas, you know, from it. And I'll send the recording to the other 3 that are not here. I think we're picking up another person, 2 people next week. And so I think that'd be good. Dave, your person didn't show up. Then you need to make sure they're here next week. But anyway, anything else before we go? All right. Well, listen, thank you for today. And there'll be another great subject for next week. And we'll just keep doing it. If there's ever a subject that you want to mastermind around, send it to me if you'd like. And let's get ready to do that. Okay. Anything you'd like to mastermind around?
Do we know next week's subject? Do we know it yet?
I'll put it out on WhatsApp.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Guys, watch your WhatsApp now. It's not easy to do sometime if you're not used to it. Okay. All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
If you would like to hear more masterminds, hit like and follow us on our social media channels. if you would like to be part of our mastermind session. Click the link in the description and join us on our next Accelerated Breakthrough Plus Mastermind.